OBS virtual camera. Oh, there we go. Hello, everyone. I can see. I'm Pete Mohrbacher. I'm a digital artist in the traditional sense, as in I draw stuff in the computer, mostly in Photoshop. Today I'm starting off in Krita, free art program. If you look up Krita on Google, Krita, you can get yourself a copy of this thing for free. Very easy. Works a lot like Photoshop, except in the ways that it doesn't. It loves to do creative stuff, sometimes for good reasons and sometimes for no reasons. There's this one brush that it's got that has recently been a little bit of a phenom called the chrome brush. It's this thing over here. There's these weird little swirly brushes. And they behave differently than regular brushes do for no particular reason. I mean, they were programmed to work this very specific, odd way, where when they wrap back on themselves, they make these kind of like spider webby interconnected zones. And if you move your hand in the right way, it creates kind of an interesting look. Everybody's got a little bit of different, what do you call it? A little bit of a different action to their hand. And so different people are going to ultimately get a different appearance out of the way that an organic tool like this is going to behave. And I'm going to start today off by doing a little bit of concept art using the chrome brush. It's cool. And let's see. So the older strokes don't interact with the newer ones. It's only one continuous stroke. It starts to wind back in on itself to make all these bubbly, loopy areas. I don't know why it's called chrome. It doesn't seem chromy. It seems more like blobby, organic. And so I found it really good for just doodling and sketching. And it's been an excellent little tool for doing demos, just because it kind of gets in there and to make cool stuff all on its own without me having to really have a lot of intervention. So I'm gonna is to get in here and mess around a bit and then see if there is something in the image that I want to preserve. And then I'll take that over into Photoshop and I'll build it into a little piece of concept art real quick. So I'm just going to do a bunch of false starts here, which is totally typical. Rather than trying to make every single drawing count, I often find myself wanting to doodle around, figure out what I want while I'm looking at the page. And then, once I see it out there in front of me, that's when I know it's what I want to do, rather than worry about it in the abstract, in imagination. People, I think, believe that artists take their imagination and they pour it out onto the page. I think that's actually untrue. I think that typically what artists do is they take, they take a rough idea from inside their head, like a vibe of what they want to do, and then they explore it on the page and sort of poke away at it. And then when it's looking, then they they work with it. It's a collaborative process between what happens on the page and what happens in the head. And that's been my experience, at least. So I whenever I'm working out ideas, I don't really worry too much about what it looks like in my imagination. Instead, I worry about what is happening in front of me. And I think about whether or not what is happening is the sort of thing that I want to happen more or less. Do I want to keep going forwards with it? Do I want to turn it into something, make it good, make it great, just trash it? It's starting out pretty good, but I'm going to trash it. A comfort. I was once at an art demo that made me really uncomfortable. It was an artist named Vanessa Lemon. She's a genius. She was doing an art demo where she was doing this in oils. And so she was very easily able to take a rough drawing and make it look almost like a photo, just sort of pulling it out of clouds of paint. And then she would just take a spatula and just smear across the canvas, just wipe out like these beautiful figures that were emerging from there effortlessly. Like it was just easy to come to the canvas and flip upside down and then start to smear it around and do it again and just do this process over and over and over again. And it was so uncomfortable to watch because it was like these beautiful things that would see these like cloudy, ethereal portraits coming together, and then they would just be wiped away forever. And it wasn't like they were being stored in her back pocket for some future use, like buried somewhere underneath the layers. It was like, one wipe of the hand and it was gone. And the bravery to just go ahead and like wipe out a really great looking painting over and over and over again was really, really memorable for me. I thought that was really cool. And yeah, so I found the more I can get comfortable with things go and letting the not editor, I feel like I'm in command of this situation. It's power say no to the art. I guess in the AI art world, that's not peculiar because you get given 4 options, you're almost always dumping 3 of them, if not all of them. The drawing, it tends to get more precious, more like the presumption is that every drawing is something beautiful and worth saving, a unique and special gift that needs to be like fostered and given life. But no, I mean, the drawings, if you're willing to say no to them, then you get some level of control that like is very, very powerful. The other thing I'm doing, Control T here, hold Shift. I like when I'm doing concept art, you start to do like a head and grab it and straight it down so that I have more room to start to draw in like more of a bust or something. It's a very typical process for me. Right now, I can hear the rotor outside of my because I am in the process of getting I I keep Alelia, Idilia. HKS, you know what I'm talking about? The name of the hurricane that's about to hit Florida? This is like
Just Italia, I think.
Idalia. Yeah.
I was actually just flying through Florida yesterday. Had a layover in Orlando.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You might not want to go because of the hurricane, but you're going.
Yeah, Hurricane Idalia is hitting right now. I can hear it outside. And so I am wondering whether or not I'm going to be streaming for the next few days because, I'm in the process of getting Tatsumaki by Idalia. And we're not sure, like, where I'm at in Sarasota, not potentially on the path. Any amount of hurricanes got 115 mile an hour, right?
Yeah, I'm in out the outer bands. You never know what'll happen when it makes landfall.
That's true. Just down the street from me was the just down the street from me was the Mohrbacher, or the all of the bucket trucks for Florida Power and Light, FPL. So just down the street from me, they're all ready to start like putting power poles back up. You got hit by Ian. It was pretty direct and it was pretty bad down here. So I didn't have power within around within 8 hours for sure. I was evacuated, so I didn't see it firsthand. Cool. I like this weird brush thing. You can try this out for free. The brush is like a default in Krita, and I hear it gives really different results to different stuff of how they use it. Cool. What's this guy looking like? My all involved Mr. Lemon. She was doing a demo on something called Yupo paper, which is like a plastic paper, and she would be adding and wiping away bits on the Yupo paper, and then she was doing a materials demo, letting everybody else touch it and try out on their own sheets. And everybody who attempted to use these same materials got different results. It was interesting that it wasn't just that we weren't able to reproduce what her art looked like. It was such an organic process that everyone's art looked different from each other's. And when it's a super organic tool like this, I imagine that is largely true. So I'd be curious to see what other people's chrome brush drawings look like. Ooh, try making some smaller marks. Instead of making these really long, windy marks, try doing little smaller bursts and see if that affects the overall texture of this thing. Introducing a certain amount of chaos in the process can be really productive. Ideas don't always be coming out. Questions, feel free to raise your hand. I'll make this. Whenever you get into more, what's the side of drawing ball to the next guy? Any questions or comments or anything? Feel free to read. I'd love to talk to you. People raise them. My favorite is stream every single time is getting to meet all you folks. Hi, Daikun. How's it going? See, you seem to be me.
And we'll
Oh. Part of us. That only had to explore.
That's what going on there. I have no clue.
We had a couple people raise their hand. Some of them dropped out early, and then we had one kid pop up, and me try to do a slur, but I'm not sure. What is happening? My drawing ability is weak today. Weak. And just about it last night. The bad drawing. I think I talked on previous stream here. This is exactly what I mean by it. The guy bad drawings is sort of like a evil. So what I'm doing here, which is to continue to put stuff down on the page, continue to feed it with an earnest effort with every single, wait for it, go away. And some people are really anxious when they feel like they don't know how to draw. And I can see why, because it's like it's so unpredictable. Like you just feel like you know how to do it one moment, and then the next, it's all gone. So instead of despairing, I think it's easier to think about the god of bad drawings just like being some sort of nuisance that steps in your way. Hey, Mavis, how's it going?
About the God of Bad Drawing, that reminds me, you have a technique with a lot of bad, but a few really excellent ones. Reminds me really on version 3.
On what?
Midjourney version number 3.
Oh, yeah.
However, since version 5, nearly every drawing is a winner, but the fantasy is lacking. Could that be the God of Drawing that did not bless Midjourney version 5?
Well, I don't think of the god of bad drawings as ever giving any blessings at all, only punishments. But yeah, there's there's a certain magic to when things are chaotic. Like the downside is that a lot of times things don't work, but the upside is that when they work, they have a magic to them. And so the more this is like part of the reason why, as an artist, it's nice to use a chaotic tool like this, because there's a certain amount of relinquishing control that can really help add a bit of magic into the artwork. Because if you have total control over the canvas all the time, it's easy for things to feel stiff and stale. And I think that is that's a risk, regardless of what medium you're using. But thankfully, you can still use Midjourney version 3 if you want to. It's like the fact that they've allowed even going back to version 1 has been nice, because there's something about the weird old crusty versions of Midjourney that I actually like quite a bit.
Yeah. The best part about this new in-painting, we can transport version 3 up to version 5 without changing it.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I should give that a shot.
We explored it a lot in a prompt chat. You just have to select the quadrant outside of the selected box, and then you don't change anything. Or you do just a few really thin stripes, then it won't change anything as well.
So you make it do nothing. So you select nothing on the in-painting, but you change the model, and then you can have it create coherent versions of the less coherent Midjourney house.
I just tested rays without marking something, but that's a good idea to test it. That works at all. No, you have to mark at least something that it works. However, you can mark something really small and it will still work.
That's an interesting idea. I mean, as a user, I always found myself seeing all kinds of possibilities in the very vague, early Midjourney versions. And that was sort of the appeal of it for me, was to see all these I kept feeling like whenever I was looking at a Midjourney version 3 image, that I was seeing an infinite amount of possibilities of what could be in the image. Or not even version 3, even a version 2. Really early Midjourney was a thing that it wasn't really a painting. It wasn't really a photograph. It was really more of a poem.
Thing. It was special.
Mm-hmm.
It was not perfect in any way, but that was what made it great. And I'm in love with version 3. That was the reason why I joined Midjourney. I joined up, I think it was the same day version 3 was released. Or maybe 1-2 days later, I'm not sure.
I got to go back and give Midjourney version 3 a spin. I haven't touched it in a really long time. I wonder if everybody has like the same feeling about like the version that they started with, or if people who have been discovering it recently are looking back at like older versions and thinking like, oh man, there's something really interesting going on here.
If you tried older versions and they fell in love because they only knew the new versions, there is something special, and it is because it fails as often. High risk, high reward.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of other artists that studied more than me and had like more technical than me. I just felt like I by the seat of my pants, and maybe this like the version model of like going higher risk, higher reward on all of my ideas. And it was nice because I felt like when I got it, I realized it, but I always worried because like I could never get where everything consisted, because my sketches were either completely abandoned or they were like really unique and special. But I couldn't do what a lot of other artists could do, which is fill an entire sketchbook full of really incredible paintings to get here and bring them into it.
Yeah. With Prune 3, I did 20 or 40 GPU minutes for one good image, but that it was amazing. This version, especially the it's great, and I don't know what to improve there anymore, but still great. But not amazing.
Great, but amazing. Yeah, it's like that's the nightmare. What you can never figure out and do differently if you're not satisfied. Sounds scary.
Yeah, and you know there's something missing.
Yeah, that's I'm in that sort of situation. Like sometimes I just try to finish it and just let it hope that it's better on the next one. And another option is to intentionally try to break it.
Yeah, that's the first thing I did. Break. I found multiple ways to break it. That's why I love multi-ROMs. However, they are not as good anymore in version 5.3.
Or idea about what it should be.
That's also why I love React 2999. That with a 10 that breaks it a lot, and a lot of amazing stuff happens with a lot of crap.
Amazing stuff happens with a lot of crap. It sure does sound like my sketchbook. My whole life like that for a long time. Yeah, it's definitely my style. It's definitely my like approach to creativity. Yeah, trying to like build a real career off of that mindset. It works well enough, but it's challenging. I don't know. I don't know if it would happen any other way though. The idea of like being able to predict how everything's going to go and do it like well every single time doesn't sound like art to me.
And make it mainstream enough so people buy it. Only mainstream stuff get spied, and extreme niche.
So, in the spirit of keeping things chaotic, my inky brush here, I believe this is stolen from a brush pack that I got from Jamie Jones. But it's now in my brush pack. I have a brush pack with like 6 brushes in it, and like most of them are either Photoshop old photo defaults or stolen from other brush packs, but I have it on available for anybody who wants to see what I work with over on huckleberry.art. This week I uploaded a bunch of free resources on there so that like the kinds of things like that people would want from me, I made sure that they were up on a storefront for $0. And so if that interests you, that's available up there. And I also have my gradients and a simple Photoshop action to delete out the paper from a drawing. You know, sort of stuff that I use all the time in my process, just making it for free. But yeah, I like this really inky brush because it's easy enough to direct. I mean, it's easy enough to say like, hey, make this area darker, make a small line or a thicker area, but it's not good at like being precise about anything. It doesn't feel like too imprecise. Like I always feel like I'm making what I intend, but it never finishes. It's never clean. And the lack of cleanliness gives it this like expressive quality. So I use this a lot when I'm doing concept art. The first steps, I want to make sure that I'm having to interpret what's there instead of it being a clear and obvious like conclusion about what's supposed to be in the art. And that like constant searching for meaning inside the chaos, that's always a really productive way of starting off a painting for me when I'm like doing concepts.
And I like this one because it looks like the head is exploding upwards in the splatter. I'm leaving the stage now. I hope somebody else comes up.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for joining me. Hello, Lilith.
If you're trying to talk, you're muted.
Ooh, look at it. Something about misaligning these layers too is like creating a kind of like exploration. Oh, Lilith, you're unmuted, but unfortunately we still can't hear you. Make a new layer just in case. All right, deafened. Hello? Thought I heard a sound there for a second. Nope.
Hello, Peter.
Hello. How's it going?
Oh, fine. It's the first time I've been able to be here in a long time, so it's good to see you're still here.
I'm still here. Yep. They haven't kicked me out yet.
Yeah, well, I hope they never do until you get tired of it. I'm actually here about the same type of question you were just asked a minute ago. I missed the whole first part of that because I was chasing down a cat to give him his bill. You know what that's like.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I'm wondering, since you use Midjourney to create sometimes, starting places for your art to edit like you're doing on here, how you manage to get version 5 to give you art styles. I mean, that's what I've been fighting with that for months. I used to love version 3 because you could do, even though it was sloppy and messy, you could do a nice expressionist style with it. And it is extremely difficult, I'm finding, on version 5 to get certain styles. And expressionism is one of the, like abstract expressionism and that type of thing. I try to avoid using artist names most of the time. I will use a combination of styles instead. And I used to be able to do fairly well with that up until about the third version 4 that came out. Do you find any problems with doing any of that kind of thing, or do you try to use that kind of thing, or do you have your own version?
I just use artist names whenever I'm trying to get styles. Like mixing artist names has always been one of my favorite things to do with AI,
Yeah.
because it's like I'm not trying to copy the artist as much as I'm trying to see what the like intermediary point between artists look.
So yeah, I do that a lot too. I use a lot of different, but I don't ever use, pretty much don't use just one name, because it seems to be generally not what I want. Like I like to put Tim Burton with a lot of different people because you get some really interesting results that way. But combining names, combining them with styles sometimes. But I'm just, I'm finding it to be a real challenge on version 5, especially for surrealistic stuff, because it is so darn busy, and I don't care how much you put in about minimalist and low detail and everything else, you still get fish everywhere.
Fish everywhere.
Yeah, I get that a lot. Yes, whole screen full of fish.
Huh.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway.
It's like I personally like. I'm kind of going with the flow a lot of times, and I don't know. Like I'm not so, as somebody whose name gets used a lot. Like I just like I try to treat others the way that I would want to be treated, and so
Right.
it's like I'm not that concerned about mixing artist names together, and it works better for some than others, even in the case of artists who are in the training data. Like it seems like it has an easier time with some artist styles than others. But yeah, if you have a really dead set idea on like a particular style that you want to get, like surrealism, and like a particular brand of surrealism, I'm not exactly sure what the best path forwards for that is, because
I've tried a bunch of different ways. A lot of times I just revert back to version 4 because it does a better job.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I have been less focused on like what's happening with the different versions, and I know everyone's got their different take on versions that they like. And I was saying since the beginning that I thought that as I've never believed that there is such a thing as a fully generalized model, like and that like the best version of this tool is one where the user gets to kind of like pick from a variety of models and like negotiate with each of the models differently.
That's what I would like to see, is having more than one model available, one that's for a more artistic and one that's for a more photorealistic.
Well, we kind of have that. I mean, it's like, version 3 is definitely more artistic, and version 5 is definitely more realistic.
Well, we do have that, but I would like to also have that with the updated ability to actually draw things. That so that you don't get, hands with 17 fingers, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Just the corrections that have been made in the general training. It'd be nice to have both.
That would be nice to have both. I'm not exactly sure what goes into that. Like, it really feels like there is a trade-off between the kind of, as it stands, there is a trade-off between this sort of like broad creativity of like creating all this like loose, easy to interpret, like, but less coherent images. And then the far more coherent, but sort of a little bit less like, creative feeling images.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely is a trade-off. I mean, you can see that if you go to a museum and wander the halls, but it's something that I would like to be able to have the balance for. I think it will eventually get there. It's just sometimes right now it's frustrating trying to do something in particular and finding yourself up against a wall, because you go to whatever version does it well, but it doesn't really do what you want because it's got all these other kinds of problems. So, it just sometimes what I do is go to version 3, do something, and then redo it, reimagine it as, version 4 or 5. And so that can do a lot, start it down the right path. But it doesn't always work. This randomly doesn't work. It's an interesting drawing, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to keep the level of chaos very high.
Yes.
And just seeing if there's little ideas or moments that I want, and then rather than fixating on them and trying to boil them down, I'm trying to like keep them in the corner of my eye while I look at other stuff and see if I can make something interesting there.
Yeah. I really need to work on learning more about Photoshop. I've had it for years, but I still don't know how to do it. I get frustrated and leave as soon as I try to do anything. So I can't find the tools.
Oh, yeah?
If I get to where I know where they are, then they move them. So.
Yeah. I mean, I always end up customizing a lot of stuff. In Photoshop, I customize my layout, and I try to get everything as much as I can like the way that the old versions used to work, because that's just what I'm comfortable with.
Right.
But this is actually the latest version of Photoshop. I recently switched over to the CC from Photoshop CS6, which is like at this point a decade old. Because I wanted to share as much as I could with other people to share stuff educationally, but it just wasn't that valuable to share, information about a program that is no longer sold today. Has been new for a decade.
Yeah, I've been on the Creative Cloud plan for just Photoshop for years.
Yeah,
pretty much since it came out. Yeah, I was lucky enough to get in real quick and got the grandfather price, so I'm still paying $10 a month for it.
Nice.
But, yeah, I don't ever want to quit.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to get into it more, it's a fantastic program.
I know.
Trying to do with I've been trying to do a lot more like studies, and you've seen me doing studies here on the stream most weeks, and like one of the realizations I had from that was that if there was an AI thing that I wanted to use, I would probably be better served in doing a study from it than I would be try to manipulate the image itself.
Right.
And not like, because in order to really get a sense on what I wanted to keep from an image, I really need to be invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, if there was an image, like if I was doing, the situation you're talking about where it's like you're having an easier time with version 3, but then there's all these things that you want to change, I would say like, see what you can do about trying to manually recreate that image. Like, what are the parts about it that stick with you when you go to recreate it in Photoshop from a blank canvas? And then after that point, making any kind of, instead of making any changes, putting the things, if there's something with screwed up hands, or like, you want a figure that's coherent, or like you want to add some bit of like scenery in it that, you've imagined should be there, you have an opportunity to add that from scratch while benefiting from whatever creative inspiration, V3 is providing to you.
Yeah. Yeah, really, when you think about how far it has come in such a short time, how far the technology has advanced, it's just amazing. I almost feel guilty, saying that there's something about it that I'm not real happy with because of that. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot I could do on my own.
The thing that I think people didn't understand, and like, the thing I think that artists who are mad about the technology didn't understand when it first came out, was I looked at it and said, oh, this is interesting, but it's not doing the hard part of art.
No.
Like, it was doing the part of that art that people thought was hard, which is to make highly detailed images quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we've lived with that to a certain point, I think that people are sort of coming to realize that that's not the challenge of art. It is challenging to do it, for sure. And there is some people that have built their careers on that being a thing to do, which is make a high detailed image. People do like, realistic studies, right? That's their whole, but that's not the challenging part of art. And so even with a tool that's able to do this very high level, very quickly, it doesn't solve all of the issues of like a creative person trying to express themselves. And those problems remain hard. And I think one of the things that's, so difficult about art is that it is both the learning of doing the technical stuff, anatomy, lighting, learning to render materials, things like that. But it's also the genuinely creative side of things, the part where you have to, foster a vision from nothing into something that you can share with other people.
Yeah. Having done that in glass, it's in my lifetime, it's a challenge, no matter what medium you're working in.
Yeah, and like it's just, it doesn't get easier just because it's easier to create the image itself.
No.
I could see versions of like these tools that really put a ton of control into artists' hands that would transform the conversation to some degree. But what I've seen so far is like, it's very interesting and it's very useful in like certain specific segments of the artistic process, but it is not the artistic process in its entirety.
Well, you write your prompt and you can write a very loose prompt, but you have no clue what it's actually going to draw, or where it's going to put it, or the color choices, that kind of stuff. And until you do, then, it's not entirely your piece. At least.
Yeah. And then the most specific example, but it's the graphic you that something that is the clear, but you said your like prompt, there are thousands and thousands of correct ways to express that idea. And right now we're not even at the point where it can do that, because a lot of times you say like, you try to give it some specific instruction, like, hey, I want minimalist, I want surrealism, but I want it to be simple with the, not a lot of birds in it.
Yes.
And I gave you exactly what you want, but they gave a final image that was perfectly, and it still wouldn't be what you had in your mind. And I think there are ways of building tool sets that allow you to actually like get a lot closer. But I think we're actually a ways off from them. So as far as things have gotten with AI image generation over the course of the past year, I think we're still a long ways off from being able to fully kind of co-pilot an image with AI.
Yeah.
I've worked with some other people who are trying to solve this problem in particular, and they believe they can do it. I think there's a number of people who are working, on that problem, but I don't think that we're that close to it. I've seen seems like close to solve.
I've tried. I've been beta tests for many of the systems, so I'll write and still have accounts with most of them. So, as far as I can tell, Midjourney is the most advanced of the ones I've tried, and Stable Diffusion is coming right up there with their latest version. But, so many of the others are just Stable Diffusion, and they don't have the newest, version of that. But I've used the chat Dolly too, and one called Starry AI, which is, I think, its own thing, and several others that are their own thing, and most of them aren't really doing well other than Stable and Midjourney.
Yeah,
It's
it
just
seems like everyone was launching their own one, and then there was the version 2 of a lot of them, and I was like, it was like we got Dolly, and then we got Dolly 2 pretty fast afterwards, and then we haven't seen Dolly 3 any sign.
you know,
I
I
mean,
think
I guess
they're
I
too
would have been.
busy with chat that they aren't going to probably do another one. But yeah, I forgot about Wombo. Wombo has been out there. It was my very first thing I tried. Was actually I got Wombo on my phone. Wombo.
Yeah,
Have you ever used that?
yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting little app. It really is. But they are. It's very. You use their styles, and they are very very set.
Mhm.
You don't have a lot of choices in that. You have to pick one, and you have to do your thing, and it's color and all that. So it's not as open as what you get in all the rest of it, but it is a fun little toy to play with, and it does some beautiful stuff. Yeah, from the things I've played with, but definitely Midjourney's up there at the top
I agree.
as far as progress, as getting where you want it to be eventually.
Yeah, now the question is like, where do we? But the question still remains: is like, where does it need to go? Like, what is the goal of it as a tool? Like, what is the goal of it? Like, what is the goal of its users create? It like doesn't get to the question, like, what should we be making?
That's true. Well, that's kind of up to the user, I guess. What should be making? They have a lot more controls now, a lot more. Some of the, stable context, but the filter didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be
All right.
frustrating, but anyway, this is getting to be really, really, really cool looking.
I don't know. I feel like I'm sort of hammering the coolness out of it.
I don't know. It's getting too dark. I think that's part of it.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, as I feel like I need to figure stuff out in a drawing, but it's I don't actually know what I want. I just make it darker and darker, and then I think, like,
Yeah.
if I squint into the darkness, maybe there's a good drawing.
Yeah, I'm squinting it. Yeah, see what the details are that pop out. Clive Barker, I used to get to talk to him occasionally at Dragon Con, and I used to laugh because his art, his method was to get a blank canvas and sit and stare at it for days until it told him what it is.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, and he told me one time, he said he would stare sometimes at the canvas for weeks before he knew what it was going to be. But it all told him what it was going to be. So,
I mean, it's I've talked a lot about how, you just don't get all the control that you want when you're making art, and that, like, that's an essential part of it. Like, to actively go about, just saying that externalizing it fully, and say, it's like, well, if the canvas is going to tell me what to do, it is really useful. Like,
yeah.
it may sound like woo, but
No.
when you consider that you just don't, like, if you get serious about it, you just have to acknowledge the fact that you don't have control over everything that happens in the creative process. And that, like, the more comfortable you become with that lack of control, and the more you're willing to negotiate with it on its own terms, like, the better you are at being able to, like, navigate the whole thing. And so doing that kind of actively externalizing it like that, I think, is a smart move.
Well, he's a unique artist anyway. I mean, he does a lot of those little drawings because he can sell them quick, but his serious art's really cool looking. You don't see it very often, but it's really, really nice.
I should check it out. Yeah, I mean, I know he's a multi-talented dude. He does all music stuff on top of the movies.
I know. Yeah, he's just an interesting little guy. He really is.
Little guy? Is he short?
He's not very big, he's thin and light. He's not short, he's not as short as I am. I'm 5'1" and he's taller than I am. But he's not, like 6'2" or 3. Yeah, like you'd think that.
Not like me. Not like me.
Are you a tall person?
I am 6.
I can't remember.
I don't carry myself very. I don't carry myself like a tall person, but I am in fact fairly tall.
Yeah. It's been so many years. I remember meeting you. I remember remarking on your art. I think it may have been the first year you showed at anything at Drag.
Oh, is it the first year? Yeah, that was a while back.
Oh, I've been going to there. I haven't gone in a while because I'm getting too old to go navigate all that crowd. But I've started going with the very first Dragon Con, and I started working for them in the 90s. So
that was definitely before my time.
Yeah, and I worked for them all for several years. So worked in the office or, did different things. But at one time I was the only paid employee for Dragon Con.
Everybody else was volunteering?
Yeah. Yeah, but
it's such a huge operation, such an incredibly large event. The idea that everyone there is like working for free is crazy.
Yeah, well, they get a free pass. That's what they're all working for. Except for the senior directors. Now, they have a lot more perks. They get to go on trips, and they get to go to all kinds of stuff. And I think they do get some compensation. But I was working in the office 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually being paid for my office work, But,
yeah, I don't know if I'm going to make it back to Dragon Con. I know that, like, when you leave the dealer's hall, they don't really let you back. And I had a table set for 2020.
Uh-huh.
And I, didn't. And then, like, that fell through, and I ended up ducking out of cons altogether. And,
right.
I decided not to. had to tell them I'm not going to be back for 2021 because I've stopped doing cons. And they're like, well, we're sorry to see you go, but I'm not sure I'm able to actually reapply at this point.
I would with COVID, with all the stuff that's happened with COVID, you might find out that they're looking for people. I don't know. I think Pat Henry's children are running it now. I'm not positive of that because, like, the last time I was there, it's been a while, and I haven't worked for the convention for a lot longer than that, even because I quit working and decided I wanted to go play for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're working, you can't go do what you want. At that
that's
time,
why I haven't had a job in the last 10 years.
Yeah, Pat Henry was still running it, and Ed, of course, Ed Kramer. That was a mess, but he's no longer involved with it, and that's just fine. But I think Pat's children are running it now.
Okay.
Pat and Sherry retired. Well deserved. Who I miss seeing from there, though? I don't know if you ever knew them. Off-World Design that did the T-shirts. Did you ever meet them?
No, I don't think I did.
Oh, they did their official Dragon Con T-shirts, and they always had a big booth with all kinds of really neat T-shirts. And Ray Von Tilburg was the artist who did a lot of the artwork on them. He used to come in to airbrush, sit in the dealer's hall and airbrush your shirt to order.
Yeah, that's nice.
Of course. Yeah, well, he didn't keep that up for long, but they eventually started selling shirts and just, the typical con shirts. They would get them printed up and sell them, take them in. They'd always have a great, big, huge table full of just standard shirts in the dealer's hall, and then his wife would go set up near the Dragon Con booth and sell Dragon Con shirts. The official shirts.
While I've been talking here, I've managed to somehow turn this into some sort of dark fantasy.
Really nice.
I got some sort of concept arty dark fantasy guy that isn't like a very specific design for a guy. That's not like a really specific outfit, but he's definitely got this sort of dark ranger look to it.
He does. It is very, very cool looking, and it's not your typical style either. I like it.
No, I've been experimenting a lot with different art processes and thinking a bit about how I make stuff. And so I want to be able to have more range than I've had in the past. And this is all part of that process for me, is like figuring out different work methods, different like modes of thought while I'm painting.
Yeah. That's cool, though. It was really cool. I'm starting to wonder. I bet there's a line waiting to talk. Agent, is there a line?
There's a couple people. Yeah. Lilith is trying to take another swing at the mic, and then Wonderful's been very patient, waiting for a bit too.
Okay, well, I'm going to say goodbye, and it's been wonderful talking to you. So, talk to you later.
All right. See you around.
Bye-bye.
Hello, Lilith. Is your mic working now? Nope. Doesn't look like it's working. I don't think it's not that you're muted. It's that something about your audio input is full on broken. Something said incorrectly.
You could be system muted too. If you have a mute button on your keyboard, by pressing that.
Agent Chaos could be pranking you also. He could have been messing with your thing this whole time. Nope. I'm imagining somebody out there somewhere is like shouting into a mic, going like, fuck. Like, it's not working again.
Oh, I will leave the Lilith up if they can get their audio issues figured out and run Wonderful up.
Hey, Wonderful, how's it going?
Oh, good, It's actually, I'm glad you have the rubbish God thingy as well, because, I had 2 or 3 days of it, but I was like, what? Nothing seemed to be going right, but then all of a sudden, everything came together again, and it's just, it's a phenomenon. I've never thought of calling it that. I just,
People call it art block. I don't know. It feels more like a cosmic punishment than like some sort of personal misfunction.
Yeah. I was just getting all these ideas, and it's like, oh, genius. And I was putting it all together and going, well, that's not working. It's like, what's going on? And, these incredible ideas in my head, I could see it all, but it just wasn't coming together. Crazy how it works. Then all of a sudden, boom. So I'm glad it's not just, it feels like it's just me. I think that's probably just, in life, you go, why me? But then it's like the whole world's going, why me?
Yeah, exactly. Part of the reason I like talking about this is because everybody experiences it to some degree or another, and then like feels like they're alone in that experience. It's just such a universal sort of thing to happen.
And the one thing I've realized with going back to the B3 thing, when you Atlas and stuff, that's when I first jumped in. It was. I feel like I'm still kind of like endorphin junkie now, because when I was first there with B3, my mind just exploded. It was very overwhelming for me. B3, it was just, this is incredible. It just every other image was blowing my mind. But it's got to the point now where I feel like I'm desensitized to.
Sorry to interrupt. I fixed it.
Oh, let's say, go on. You jump in and say something, then I'll call to chill a minute. And say hello. I'll just mute a sec. Lilith?
Lilith, hello? Yeah, you're welcome to talk. No, it's started up again. The problems have begun.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I am on vacations and I don't have all my equipment with me, so I have an old headphone set. And I was really like, fuck, it's not working again. Exactly like that. Sorry I interrupted. I don't have a problem if you talk with the word stuff first and I talk with you later. I don't have a problem.
I've talked with him before, and you're new, so I want to give you.
Yeah, I'm totally new in this AI stuff. I'm very curious about everything. First of all, what you make is going wonderful, and I like this style. It reminds me a priest,
Uh huh.
and yeah. Sorry for my English; it's not my native language. But
Sounds
oh, thank you. In the process, you will find out that I don't speak very good. But anyway, I like your conversation with the other speakers. But I'm very interesting to hear you talk about the jobs, the work, the money we can make as artists, the schools we can go, the education we will need or we will not need. I know it's a big conversation and a deep one. I'm here to talk and answer or ask questions and make it more specific. But it sounds general right now. But I want to ask firstly, have you finished in Fine Art University with classical arts lessons and stuff like that?
I went to a very bad art school. I went to an art school that advertised how to get a job in the video game industry. And they ended up getting sued by the U.S. government out of existence a few years after I graduated. So it was not a particularly good art school, and I didn't get a classical training in the basics of painting technique while I was there. And I've mostly even just done digital art throughout my life. So I've been learning some of that stuff later, but I definitely don't have a classical education.
Yeah, okay. I have the opposite situation that I went to a fine art school university that they didn't promote how to find a job or something like that, or even curate exhibitions and similar things. They didn't really care. It was a city university too. Um, in my last years, I found out a class that was about digital art and 3D. But I am from Greece. In Greece, we don't have so much art artists like an art society. We don't have it like that. So also the teachers weren't helping, and it was a seed experience for me. But when I first met the 3D lab, I fell in love with the digital art. I was a sculptress before. I really love making characters and things like that. But now I'm exercising and practicing alone, totally, and I'm starting to thinking maybe go to a university that I can study something like that. But I'm feeling so lost because I don't have someone to talk about these things. I'm a little antisocial too. I barely have some friends that I ask for advices, and most of them tell me don't go.
Why?
They tell
What do they
me
think?
first of all, in Greece we don't have good universities or colleges
Mhm.
that can teach you some decent game art or illustrations or 2D or 3D. Second of all, I was searching for remote lessons, that, but they are very expensive. I don't think they deserve the money. For example, I found some things like for 7 months, 9,000. I think they're a lot of money to give it just for 9 months and only in one specific thing. Also, one thing is that I really like your art. I think my art is going more to your art style. I really like to make a character very specific and detailed.
Yeah.
I love your art and also artists like Rantia. I know he's making lessons, but in Chinese. That's the problem. I was very curious to know if you make some lessons like group lessons or private lessons if it's okay to talk about this here, if it's
Yeah.
not considering.
They've been very permissive with me to self-promote here. So I have a
Okay.
new thing that I've been doing this year called Huckleberry Art Academy. We don't have anything for sale yet, but I was about to start selling group mentorships. I used to do a lot of mentoring online, one-on-one.
Yeah.
But what I want to do is make an online art educational program. And like while I'm working on it, we're also going to be doing sort of group coaching sessions where, I'll be working with a small group, 10, 15 people on a weekly basis and giving assignments and looking over work. And right now, I mean, the Huckleberry Art Academy is free. It's like, if you go to huckleberry.art, you can see the website and there's a Discord link. And the Discord community is the best part of it. And it's free to use. Like we're doing daily studies there. I do a stream every weekday on Twitch. And we have weekly challenges and people post their daily studies. And we have a lot of really active users. There's people in voice chat basically every single day, hanging out, talking, talking about work and like interested in like learning to get better at it. If you say that you don't know a lot of people that are doing it, like it's a good place to meet new people who are interested in the same thing. And then, we are going to have some like a paid course that I'm making, and then coaching sessions, not just with me, but I'm going to be bringing in other professional artists to also create coaching sessions and like having their own mentorship classes. And so it's not necessary to do them. It's like most of what we're doing is all studying art in our own way by just doing daily studies and working from our imagination and sharing them with each other. But then we're going to be developing these courses, and I don't know which one you're talking about. It's 9,000 for 7 months. That most of what I've
Something
seen,
like CGS Spectrum, something like that, I think, called.
most of what I've seen, it's usually around $300 to $400 a month for like either a mentorship, or there's these other things that are somewhere between $25 to $80 for like a subscription to a thing that gives you a bunch of videos and like self-directed.
Like artists, not like colleges.
Yeah,
Like
well, no,
getting
it's
more classes.
like a kind of college replacement thing. So they have like,
Okay.
they'll have like they'll promise, oh, well, art school is very expensive, so you can buy my thing instead. Or like you'll spend, $400, to go and get, 150 hours worth of instruction, and you can take the assignments yourself, things like that.
Yeah. Look, I'm very interesting in everything you said, and I want to ask. Sorry for interrupting, but can I find you some way and maybe start this mentorship you said, and I will wait patiently. Maybe the lessons you said.
Huckleberry.art. The website is up. There's some info on there. There's a link to the Discord where you can find me broadcasting every day, and the community is there. And then you can sign up, and there'll be info about that. And then if you follow, I'm easy to find on socials. My name is fairly unique, and so you can find.
I found you on Instagram. To be honest.
When we start launching like the bigger stuff for Huckleberry, I'm going to be talking about it everywhere. But for now, it's kind of like my secret club. Been growing kind of organically on its own. We've got a bunch of like Midjourney users in there who've come over to hang out. And it's like this sort of daily art hangout that happens. And it's people from all over.
That's interesting. As a social, I was always sitting in my desk working alone till the morning. I never make the first step to socialize in our society. Mm-hmm. And I think it's my biggest mistake, first of all. Yeah, I'm trying. As you see, I'm really trying my best. But I really want to find you like quick. I don't know if you have a wait list, because I tried to send some messages to some artists like you, and if they answered me, because they don't answer, they told me that they have a big wait list.
Ah, well, I typically answer when I get DMs. So I'm pretty sure you haven't DM'd me.
Oh, I will.
But when I don't, I haven't done one-on-one mentorships for a while because they're just it's really difficult to like find the time to focus on them.
That's the
But
same.
that's why I'm trying to build like a school where I can take all the things that I'm normally teaching people one-on-one and turn it into something that more people can get access to. And
Yes.
I really think like, so I've been thinking a lot about what I want to do with it. And like everybody else has this sort of big pile of videos that they sell. And the big pile of videos is fine. And some people, that's really what they want. But the way I learned was not by learning all the academic bits of art. I learned by just making the things I wanted to do, like, and taking them to online communities. Back before social media, there was like forums, you know, people had their art forums and places like DeviantArt. And that was like where you went to go like post and share your stuff. And so there was these discussions
Yeah.
in there, and everyone wanted to look cool in front of the other artists, and they wanted to get compliments from their favorite artists. And so that was what
No.
was pushing me every single day to make more art. And I want to recreate that. I want to like, rather than making telling people about all the different types of cast shadows or like color schemes or like classical art techniques, I really just want to recreate the way that I learned how to become a professional, which was becoming obsessed with a community and
Yeah.
having a bunch of other people around.
Yeah, I love DeviantArt. I recently found out about this site because, as I told you, I was a fine artist, and this doesn't have to do a lot with DeviantArt. Also, when you make a sculpture, you need a lot of time alone in a room, you know, day, night working. So I love DeviantArt, but I don't like it. Like, I don't have this feeling inside me that I want the admiration and the likes and everything. It's just open for me, and I tell this for everyone. Everyone know it, but it's a nice place to study other artists and find artists that they don't have even Instagram, because I searched it and most of them don't even have Instagram. So it's a very rare place. And you can find artists like the one I told you before, like Ron, like some Polish and Russian crazily skilled artists.
Yeah.
And second of all, I want you to talk about studying and the job industry, but for everyone, not just for me, because I think it's a subject that every artist has questions and want to learn from a professional. And I really admire you because you remind me all the artists that I want to, I admire and I want to be like them. Some of them work in the film industry, some of them in Blizzard or games, animations, everything. And it's something very difficult to achieve. And you have to
Well,
work a lot.
I haven't actually, the thing that's unique about me is that I don't actually work for anybody.
I know, I saw that. I saw your tarot and everything. It's very rare, but your level is like them.
Yeah, I did some work from Blizzard. They had an expansion that they were doing with the Afterlife for World of Warcraft, and they referenced my art a lot because I've done a lot of divine beings. So it was they brought me in to go do some promotional art for that because they were drawing so much inspiration from me. So it's like, I'm not sure which is more prestigious, to be the guy who's working at Blizzard every day or to be the guy who works at Blizzard every day as copy.
I hope I had the same question for myself, but I don't. The question for me is that I cannot find a job. And, I'm 28 years old. I am studying art 7 or 8 years now. Also, I'm doing it by myself, like practicing before. So more than 8 years. And of course, in my country, we don't have good opportunities. So I'm looking for remote jobs. I am practicing every day, like day, night, day, night, day, night. I am sending my CV everywhere. I'm trying every day to get better. As I told you, the style I like is very difficult. Also, I cannot work simple stuff like it's a curse for me. I open my PC every day and I'm saying, okay, today I will make something simple because I'm trying to make some slots for casinos or some small graphic designs. So maybe I can have some job opportunities. But whenever I start something simple, I always end up making something very well made or realistic that needs a lot of hours. Okay, I got better because in one day maybe I will make something quick, but then I will start chasing the details and everything. So again, the jobs I will search are less and less because finding a job with an art style that is unique and realistic and full of details, and maybe to be more specific, like armors, weapons, robots, fighters, the style. It's like difficult finding a job, I think. And I'm getting frustrated because it's been like 8 years plus. And I don't know, maybe you think in our 30s we will find a proper job?
It's possible.
It's possible.
It depends. I mean, the opportunities have changed a lot over the last 8 years. So it's like the jobs that were there 8 years ago are not here now in a lot of cases, but now different ones are. So like what companies want, what they are looking for has changed over that period of time. And it's going to be changing again someday. Hard to say exactly what would be the thing.
Yeah,
So,
you want to talk about these things alone? I can let you talk about things if the other speakers want to say something, or if they want to let you be a philosopher and freestyle and say everything you want, because it's a very interesting subject. I don't want to make
specifics about this sort of stuff, but it's hard to talk specifics in a general way. So like so stop by my server sometime and share your work, and there's plenty of people who have different experiences there. We've got some professional artists around who can give you differing opinions from mine, and I'll let you know what I think, and maybe I'll do whatever I can in order to try to, if there's any useful information I have, I'll share it with you happily.
Yeah. Look, I'm not perfect for sure. I'm not Ruan for sure. No one is Ruan and no one will be Ruan. I'm trying my best. I'm not saying that because I want this for myself. I'm just, I let this general because I want you to talk about this subject for everyone. Don't think that I'm the only one that wants to hear your opinion about this stuff. I don't know.
Getting jobs is there's like a lot, but the reason why it's hard to talk in specifics about it is because there's so many possible different opportunities. I mean, you brought up casino. It's like a classic way. I know plenty of people who that's been their last few years while they've been kind of hiding away, rethinking what they want to do, what they want to make, and who they are. The casino companies have been fantastic refuges for them to be able to pay their bills and remain artists while they work out other things in their life. They,
but then you will not have the time to make some serious practice about these serious jobs I told you. I think it's the problem of our life that we don't have the time to have another job. Sometimes maybe not even casinos. Like most of my jobs were like waitress or random stuff.
Yeah, one of my favorite community members on Huckleberry is a former student of mine. He works at Arby's.
Yeah, you see?
Doing amazing work every day, but he's like only recently sort of developed his own style and started to build a reputation. And so in the meantime, he's serving roast beef sandwiches out of a fast food restaurant and then coming home and producing really great new pieces of art.
Wow. That's a very difficult thing to do. Like you are so tired. Yeah, you're so tired. I don't think you have the physical and the mind energy to do some good art. It's very
He keeps
difficult.
doing it. It's amazing to watch. I mean, but it's like this is how it is for a lot of people. Is that it's there is
course.
really good, great like some people like I had a good time. I had went to this bad college, but for 4 years, all that anybody expected me to do was do art homework, you know. And so during that
Yeah.
time, I managed to develop a lot because that was the only thing that was required of me. I wasn't raising a family. I wasn't taking care of anyone else. I was only needed to do homework for art school for 4 years. Great. And, but like, you know, if you're an adult, like there are so many different ways in which things tug at your time. You just owe things to other people. And it, you know, you end up having to have a job and the job takes most of your time. And like, depending on who you are and what your situation is, it can be very, very difficult to have enough time to develop your identity as an artist on top of everything else that's needed. It's a very, very common problem now.
Yeah. How many years did it take you to get the reputation and the business to run smoothly?
Um, so like I started to sell my art almost immediately after I started making it. But I was only making, you know, I'd go to a convention and set up a table in the artist alley, and I had only been drawing for a few months, and I made, you know, $10 while I was there. That was not very. I wasn't very good. I wasn't better than anybody else, you know, who had been only drawing for a couple of months.
Yeah.
But I never left. Just like every year I kept coming back, and every year I was 1 year better. And so by the time I graduated from college, I had had many years experience, like, you know, representing my art and selling it directly. And I had had several years building a reputation online. So some people had heard of me. I'd won some awards. I had like been published a few different times. And so I wasn't really successful. But I was able to like, you know, I was able to push up to the next level because I had accomplished some things as an artist and I had some valuable experiences. So I was able to continue to like, you know, advance forward bit by bit. And so after college, I had a stretch where I tried to be freelance. I was living in my parents' house, again, not really owing a lot to anyone else. And that I think lasted for a couple of years. And then I got engaged and I had to do something.
Of course.
I was like, I can't really get married and then go back to my childhood bedroom and be like, well, I'll see you next weekend or whatever. So I went out and I tried to find a job at a game studio, and I got really lucky because the one of the freelance clients I had who was paying me $75 an illustration, which is, you know, not enough to, you know, go rent an apartment using that money. They were getting bought out by a video game studio from Iceland, and they were hiring all their freelancers as full-time employees at the exact moment when I was starting to look for full-time work. And that allowed me to transition over into working in an office and working in a game studio. And I sucked at my job. I was unqualified for it, but so was most of the people who worked there. So I didn't really stand out in that respect. And it was a total disaster. The game never came out. They worked on it for 7 years and then eventually dumped the whole thing in the garbage. I was there for about 3.5 of those years before I was fired in a mass layoff when they tried to cut back on their budget and fire a huge chunk of the staff. But by that point, I had already had enough years of like professional experience that like between, my portfolio, like other side projects I'd worked on, and like, my reputation online, all of it allowed me to pivot to things that were better. So it was like, by the time I felt like I actually knew what I was doing in terms of doing like concept art for work, working in the entertainment industry, I'd already been working in the entertainment industry for years. It was just that I had like, people had taken pity on me, basically. I had just been standing in the exact right spot to get sort of sucked through this, opportunity. I was game to go like change cities and work in some weird studio and deal with whatever nonsense they had going on. I thought it was great because, the alternative was living in my parents' house. So it was like, I was willing to put up with just about anything. And then, over the course of that, the years after that, like, I realized that I had been building some very interesting artwork on my own, and I knew how to do marketing and sales, and I knew I had built enough of a following on the internet that I was able to basically go independent, that like I didn't actually need to have a job in order to be able to cover my bills or make any of my money. And that was like really just a byproduct of the fact that I had really valued working on personal projects for many years. And I had also spent quite a bit of my time like building up a fan base. And I was interested in sales and marketing throughout that time as well. So I had, what's up?
Have you paid for marketing?
I have, yeah. I actually, the last time I bought marketing, I spent $5,000 buying an ad on a YouTube video.
Oh, you still use it? Are you still, paying for marketing, or did you use it in your first steps for the fan base making, and then
No, not in the first steps. The first steps was all organic. It was a different internet back then. I mean, the first steps was DeviantArt back when DeviantArt was very different than it is.
Yeah, I remember it. I remember. That's why I never used it, because I remembered it. I remember it wasn't something special. That's why I left it. But
I liked it for what it was back then. I joined, I think, probably 16 years ago at this point.
it reminds me like Etsy. Do I pronounce it right, Etsy?
Yeah.
It reminded me like this. It was like silly, a little silly back then.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's always been kind of silly. I think that's sort of its brand. But
yeah, they still have some silly stuff, but they have a serious level up there.
So I don't know. I mean, it's like everything that's been true for me was true at the time, and that time is gone. And so now we live in a different era. So I think it's more instructive for me to think about the people I know that have come up recently. And I know young people who have just graduated from school who have pivoted very quickly into doing what I'm doing right now, which is being an independent creator. Some of them are building audiences on YouTube. There's a lot of activity at conventions. What you can do from Greece, I mean, it's like, I'd say things like Twitch.
Airbnb.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you can find here, to be honest. No conventions.
No, I know there's not any conventions, but I mean, it's like in the EU, there's conventions. Like there's some really incredible gaming, like tabletop gaming events in Italy and Germany.
Of course.
And those are closer to you than they are to me. So these are events that you have easier access to than I've ever had. I haven't even been able to make it to some of the best ones. And then there's also lots of the same online opportunities that I do nowadays are available to you, the same as they are to me, which is like, I've recently started streaming on Twitch every day. And so building an audience, on Twitch and using that as a place to start to develop a YouTube, because the algorithm on YouTube is not as brutal as like, Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. It's like, YouTube seems like they're actually interested in trying to get people who are making content seen on the platform, which is nice. So, it's possible to build an independent reputation in these spaces if you make things that people find fascinating. And like, if you share some of yourself along with the work, it can become a real business. Just so long as there's people that are interested in what's being made, there is the opportunity to turn it into a job. Because we live in an economy right now that it's like the attention economy. Whoever can capture people's attention can capture their money.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the question is not who's paying. The question is, how do I get people to notice? And I think that is the question of our age right now.
And the problem in the same time, because there's so many people doing the same job and doing it so much better. So you are going to be afraid to start this. First of all, you have so much choices. You're gonna say, oh, what I'm gonna do now? I'm gonna pay marketing for Instagram, for YouTube, for Tweets. No, yes. But then you're gonna say,
no, terrible idea.
Terrible idea, I know, because you said you're gonna start organically. So I agree, but there's so much people doing the same stuff and so much better than you. So you're gonna start with zero audience and try to build it. I agree, but as I said,
starting at zero.
Starting from zero, but I am not 0 years old. I'm almost 30 years old. I am so afraid that I will never, it's like a fear that you will never be able to live a proper life.
Yeah, I just started going to the gym, and I'm almost 40. I'm turning 40
You didn't have the time or the money?
No,
you mean, of course, the money you had.
No, it was I went to the last time I was exercising was about 5 years ago.
Because you were sitting in a chair all day.
Yeah, but what happened was I was getting too ambitious and I injured my shoulder a little bit, and then I said, "Oh, I'll get back to it when I feel better." And then I felt better, but the kids were out of school, and it was difficult to find time. I said, "Oh, I'll do it when I have more time." And there was always a thing that was pushing it off, and I let it. And I was always thinking I should get back to that, and I waited 5 years.
Are you kidding me? I barely stand up to eat because I'm working all day. I don't even I'm getting hungry. But I'm still working, then I forget I'm hungry. So maybe it's been days like this. That's why I'm saying it's this.
When it comes to starting things, though, what I found worked for me in this case is that the thing that was really overwhelmed, the thing that was a problem was not that I was didn't really have time, or I felt like I was too pressed to be able to go to the gym. It was that I felt the pressure that if I was going to commit to do it, I would have to do it all the time. This was it was a commitment to change permanently. And that I was going to say, it's the moment in which I can transform who I am. And the answer was always no. And
so still you don't go?
Here's what I realized is I realized that a lot of problems, they're not we create this perception that we're going to do something, whether it's a lot of people are interested in art, but they're not giving themselves permission to start. That a lot of it is the feeling that you can't imagine yourself actually doing it every day. You're well, I'm going to need to do it every day. And so it's not that you can't do it that day. It's that you don't feel like you're ready to start doing it every day. And that's the real problem in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So my solution was it wasn't a matter of trying to. I started allowing myself to break my habits. I was doing daily painting, and I did daily painting for 3 weeks, and then there was a Saturday where I was I'm going to get drunk. I'm just going to get drunk, and I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to have any time to do a daily painting. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It's not that I'm quitting daily painting. I'm going to I had this streak. I was saying I was doing it every day. Guess what? I'm not doing it every day. Doing it not today. And then I will start the habit again tomorrow. That starting a new habit is really easy. It's sticking with the habits that's hard. But you have the opportunity, if you reframe it as thinking that you are starting the new thing every day, it's actually kind of easy. Because there's some days where you go, I really don't have time today. I really can't. This is the same thing with me exercising now too. I don't, I'm trying to do it regular, but then if I screw it up, I don't say, oh, I'm not able to do this. I just accept the fact that I need to return back to doing it. It's like a meditation. You try to focus on something. You try to focus on your breath, and you will eventually you get distracted always, and you lose track of your breath, and you really start thinking about something else. You're just feeling sorry for yourself, or you're thinking about food, or you're thinking about something stupid that you did, or whatever, whatever pops in your head. And then the whole point of the meditation is not to be oh, I screwed up. It's okay, well, now you have to do one repetition. One rep is getting back to concentration. That it's not a matter of seeing how long you can keep the concentration. It is seeing how many times you can repeatedly return back to concentration from losing it. So the game is not to be able to maintain concentration for an hour straight. The game is being willing to return back to concentration every time you fail for an hour straight, which is a different challenge. And ultimately a more interesting one, because it mirrors the real experiences we have, because there's no permanent change ever in our lives. It really is a matter of how often this commitment to returning is the real thing that we're challenged to do. And so when it comes to something making art, I find that a lot of people are intimidated by this idea of transforming into an artist forever, or having to be studying all the time, or be focused on making some new business. But it's just we need is to allow ourselves to fail and then return back to our center, and repeat that process. Commit to constantly going back to it, even if we're doing a bad job every single time. Regardless of how many times we let ourselves down, they just keep repeating it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's I think it's a powerful idea. It's one I hadn't realized. I always took it for granted I was going to return to art, and I was going to always be trying to build my next thing, or make my new project, because everything in my life revolves around art. There is no version of my life that doesn't come back to art. And so every time I have been lazy and put it down for a long time or whatever, I just eventually get back to it, because of course I do, because it's who I am. It's this is being an artist is my whole life. It's where I got all my friends, all my money, all my dates, all my everything ever came from being an artist. So, of course I'm going to be coming back.
Yeah, we were born like artists. We're not made to be artists. We have it inside us, like a deep feeling.
Yeah, it just, I don't see another option. It doesn't, no other way of living makes any sense.
Yeah, you prefer not to eat, not to go to the gym, not to go with your friends out, and prefer to stay in. Can I ask you, what is the biggest, or in general, how long do you pause from this? Or just pause, give up for a little, as you said before?
I don't know, a month or so. No art.
Mm.
I keep meaning to do it, but I'll just be oh, they've got this painting I really need to work on. This one. And I'll just be oh, I've got to take care of this thing. I have to be at this place. Somebody's depending on me for something. And then I will finally have time for it. And I'll go, oh, I don't know. I'm not feeling it right now. I'll go and, play video games for an hour, and then I'll get back to it. And then something else will pop up, get in my way. And I can do that for a good solid month or so. And then eventually I go, I really need to get back. But I found that like when I started giving myself permission to study, the study and the time spent doodling, the time spending time with other artists ended up being the thing I was wasting time with. So I was still making a lot of art, even if I wasn't working on the art I was supposed to.
Yeah. And how long does it take you to fully finish a piece you make, like the one you saw me before? That I saw it in Instagram too.
Maybe a month, but I honestly maybe a week. But that's assuming I'm actually working on it.
Yeah, a fully stylized and finished. I mean, yeah, I could sketch. It's different.
Yeah.
For example, this one, are you planning to finish it quick, or are you going to chase every single detail?
I don't know. I don't usually work like this. This is an experiment in sort of like playing around with a style that I have seen, but I don't really do myself. So I'm just experimenting with the tools and seeing what I want, and maybe I'll post it, but probably not. Probably it'll go in a folder along with other doodles and studies, and I'll pick it up sometime 3 years from now and go, oh, that was a cool one. But the point of it today is not to produce something that anyone is going to buy or be a part of a collection or whatever. The whole point of it is to just spend the time that I'm doing right now. Spend time here, spend time talking to you, spend time trying out some new art techniques, experimenting with my style, having fun playing with art. That's the whole point.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a big supporter of social, so I don't care about posting, to be honest. I care about the process and the study too.
Mm-hmm. But I also have a business that relies on me having to finish things. And so,
yeah, of course.
coming back to having to do certain types of art over and over again. This is an interesting process, though. I mean, this is more like a Craig Mullinsy kind of thing. I've never really experimented that much with it, but I've been painting so much, I've been studying so much that it's like I'm feeling comfortable making things a little bit more abstract and being experimental than I used to. I'm usually much more controlled than this.
Yeah, that was a question I had before, because when you trying to find a job, you have to be specific of what you are and what you provide.
Mm-hmm.
And in an age that there's so much people doing better stuff, as I said, and so many companies that ask million of skills. I'm studying, as I said, in slots, in small graphic designs, in animation, in everything, and it's getting very chaotic. You cannot be specific and say that I am an illustrator or I'm a visual artist or a concept artist. For example, I love the style you are using and the technique. It reminds me some ages before that I was more free and careless. I almost forgot how it is to play with abstract brush strokes. I feel so weird seeing that, because right now I have in my mind that okay, you have to choose what you are. You cannot be a little of everything. You cannot be illustrator and 3D animator and 2D animator, because I love everything.
Mm-hmm.
I love every media. And I really like, and it's very nice. I see someone working so freely, but I don't understand what work I will find if I do my job more freely. I have to make this. For example, if I make the same thing you make right now, I will not start it like this with random brushstrokes. I will have a specific idea in my mind and I will keep it clean, because if I want to find a company, I will find it as a character designer, for example. A character design has to be specific in one point, because in the end, you're gonna need to see how the hands look, or specifically how the fabric is. Now it's very abstract, and I understand that it's different purpose. Of course, it's different, but as artists, it's very difficult to find a job just as a visual artist that makes some art pieces that are more like fine art, because this reminds me fine art, not game design, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
someone
think
has.
I'm a kind of like a fine artist, and I'm kind of like a YouTuber.
Yeah,
You know? Like I don't need to be. I don't really like having to be a certain type of artist for a job.
me too, but you have to do it. You have to be more specific. You will, in the end, you're gonna close it. You're gonna close the sketch you're making.
Yeah. No, I don't think art is that. I don't think that is true. I don't think art is that defined. I know lots of artists who work basically as fine artists, but they work in this kind of genre. They sell their art online. They go to shows. They, meet with fans. They build an audience through the internet, and they get to make what they want, and they get to be like a fine artist as much as they feel like. Or sometimes they want to be a little bit more like a game art, working in games, and sometimes they want to be like a fine artist, and they get to do both.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, but you have to be specific. Like if someone follows this path, they are like visual artists, concept artists. Someone have to take this sketch and make it something specifically. Maybe it's for Unity or Unreal or for animations or for anything. You have to be more specific for what you provide.
No, I don't agree.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out.
Presuming that you're going to go to a place and work as that's a very specific job, but there's lots of different artist jobs.
Can I ask you something else?
Sure.
Do you use 3D?
No, I never bothered to learn it. I should learn it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to be a 3D artist, but if you make something in 3D, then you can render it, and you can draw on this render, and you can use the 3D model you make and render every side of the character, for example. It is very, very useful to combine 3D and 2D art together. Sometimes it makes the job easier sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds nice.
I think you should
I've
try
never
it.
felt it's never been a necessity, and so I keep putting it off.
I think it will suit you a lot. Because you're using... yeah.
I like to be a little bit more like a fine artist. I don't really worry about making my things.
No, just for you. For you.
Yeah. So letting it be a little uncontrolled and chaotic, it's been good. I've had a lot of years. I've been a professional artist I've been independent for coming up on 10 years. And then last time I worked in a game studio, it was 10 years ago. And then I think I first started working in a game studio probably, about 17 years ago. So let's say I've been a professional artist for about 17 years. And all the things that you've been saying that you think you need. I've never done any of that.
Yeah, I'm soaked.
In like, the world's a changing place. Like there's a lot of opportunities depending on who you are and what you offer. So, I would say that, you have this very specific view in mind of what I know it means to be, like an artist, especially an artist in like a concept artist or an artist working in the entertainment arts. But I think that, we get a lot of these perceptions from seeing things on the internet, and that's like, those are all often very curated views that we get to see. People are only showing the things they want to show.
Yeah.
And I think that the world is a more complicated place than that.
Yeah. So, if someone wants to talk, of course they can talk. It's been so long I am just talking and I feel bad. If someone wants
Okay, well, we're coming up on the end of the stream here. It's nearly, we're about 7 minutes away from the point where we normally end the stream.
Yeah.
There's no one in
Okay.
line. There was somebody waiting for a bit. If anybody wants to get a last minute question in, you're welcome to come give it a shot.
Yeah. I'm a person that will never stop asking. So if someone wants to
Your question that you want to get an answer to? Oh, Wonderful is back. Bring him up.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's nice meeting you, Lil. I'll see you around over on my.
Me too. I will send you maybe a message on Instagram. And I will tell you maybe that I am Lilith. Maybe if you have time, answer me. It will be very nice.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on stage.
Thank you guys to everyone in the chat too. Everyone is very supportive, and I'm very glad that I joined your community. Thank you very much. Thank you too for everything. It was
No, oh,
All right. Hey, how's it going?
oh, good. I think Asians invited me up because I had to bugger off and I've just come back again. And he was like, oh, got invited in quickly. What was I saying before then? It was a while ago.
I don't remember. Who were you bringing up last time you were on stage?
Oh, desensitization. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was talking about like how I'd rank every day. I love ranking because I think, again, when I first started doing it, it was just the adrenaline, the whole enthusiasm of it all was just crazy. That I was just seeing this incredible constructions, of art pieces and what it was able to do, mixing styles just so effortlessly, and it was just creating things that I've never seen before in my life. And now I feel like I'm that junkie that's basically just searching for that. Now it's just I'm going through going, yeah, seen a million of them. It's just all like it's click now. I just feel like I've been drained and I'm just searching for that one something now. It's quite an unusual experience that I'm going through now with my art now, and within doing this, there's a change in me, and I didn't know if you'd experienced anything similar to this. But I don't doubt you rank as much as I do, for example, but I think I'm probably seeing about 6,000-7,000 more images a day. But every day I'm still seeing everything now and go, whoa, what's that? This. My eye instantly picks up on something and goes, this is different. And that's what I'm searching for now. I seem to be on this quest of an endorphin rush of these new sort of intermediaries, like you say, of styles. It's creating so much.
Yeah. When it comes to AI stuff, it's like there's always interesting stuff happening, but the majority of what most people are making is not that interesting. Because the prompts are not that interesting. A lot of the things that were fascinating a year ago were, nowadays they seem very blasé because, there's no barrier to it. Like you can just punch in a simple prompt and you will get something, and it's it's something like back when I first experimented with AI stuff. I was posting it on Twitter, and it was like, I remember posting an AI piece that I had only spent about 10 minutes editing, and it got like 50,000 likes. Holy shit. It could be my whole future of my career. And now I'm like, I'm going to take all that stuff off my website. It's like, yeah, it really wasn't, I wasn't really that deeply involved in it. And also nobody cares. Like it's stuff that used to be the most novel expression in the world is now just like, there's literally millions of them. Like one of the things we're wired for as people is novelty. And so there's like interest, there are definitely like creators in the AI space that are making things that are unique, that are unlike anybody else's stuff, that are still eye-catching. But it's like a lot of it is buried deeply beneath like a lot of like the very same like early low-level explorations that are happening. So it really requires like a dedicated, somebody who's dedicated and interested in AI specific, I think, to be able to curate like where all of the really good, most interesting stuff is. And I don't think it's like satisfactory to just, see a lot of it. Like, because early on it was all like, purely novel. Like basically everything that it was doing was something you had never seen before. And it was an incredibly exciting moment. But like, now that we've seen that happen for a while, like, I don't feel like the same thing happened with like handmade digital art. Like, it's not like people are like, I've seen all the JPEGs now, like I don't want to see any more paintings. There's always somebody who's kind of got an interesting voice or like standing out in some specific way and like renewing people's fascination with the medium. It's just like I think in handmade art, it's easier to sort out all of the stuff that's kind of blasé at a glance. And like, I think that the curation systems we have, like, like just the Instagram algorithm is going to be more effective at making sure that all of the bad artists are, for lack of a better word, are just like not going to show up in your recommended feed. And that the ones that people are kind of agreeing are doing interesting things are the ones that are going to surface to the top. And that's like, I don't feel like that same type of curation is necessarily happening in AI because there's less agreement about what is interesting. I mean, I think you probably have a clearer sense on what's novel in the AI space than the average user. But I think there's still a lot of AI images that are being weighed in the same way that like they used to be, which is that like, hey, I'm looking for images that are highly detailed with like a unique style. And it's like, well, we'll take your pick. Like we've got a million. We got literally millions of those lying around. So what are we looking for if we're not looking for that? And the language, like a lot of art curation comes down to like vocabulary and language. Like, how do we talk about what is unique and interesting in the AI space? Like, how do you describe a really novel AI generated image to somebody? And to explain why this highly detailed image is way better than this highly detailed image. I mean, people already struggle to a degree with like, people are always frustrated with fine arts because you go and you hear about some gallery, somebody talking about like fine art gallery thing, and it always sounds like nonsense what they're saying. It's like easily parodied. But the truth is that it often takes like a lot of like contextual understanding to appreciate why, fine artists are being appreciated at all. What's with the banana taped to the wall? Why does anybody care? Why is that a news story? Somebody taped a banana to a wall. And so like we're in this place right now where there are some people that are for like in the NFT world, there were some people that were being curated up as being, novel AI creators. The art world was appreciating, and but I don't think that there's a lot of consensus about what makes some AI images interesting and other ones not interesting. Like, what makes it an AI generated image to you feel like it is a standout, excellent image that is capturing your imagination?
Well, that's the hunt now for me. That's the daily. That's what I don't know till I see it. That's what I have to say at this point. Now I'm looking at things where I'm getting desensitized to certain levels, and then I'm looking every day I see something that's a bit like this, that has a wow factor. But then there's everything that has that kind of like the extreme. It's like, what? Oh my goodness, what am I looking at? And I have to step back a little bit and go, what? Why? Why is this jumping out at me? And again, sometimes it's hard to put into words, isn't it? And it's like, okay, right. And I often rank live, and people will be going, well, okay, what? I don't get it. What's so special? I'm like, just look at the light here. Look at this. It's like, oh my goodness. It's just, and also I still end up doing this, but I'm like going, oh my god, can you? How have they done this? Now straight away, I'm into the prompt. I'm checking out their gallery, looking at and I'm just praying it's not a happy accident, and that they've worked this. They've somehow worked to discovery into these styles, and the joy of joys when it is something like that, and it's like, oh wow, they've really this is a progression. This is something amazing. So that to me is what but I don't know till I see it. I don't know what I'm looking for until I see it. If that makes any sense. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but also then like, I think that's one of the reasons why it's difficult to create a culture of it. I feel like everyone is just sort of waiting until they see it. Then like, how do we build a culture where we can elevate some creators and say like, wow, they're doing something different.
But it's extraordinary to say, 3 or 4 times a week, my mind's blown by something. I'm seeing something that's authentic, that's almost authentic, or something that's spectacular. Never throughout my entire life, that doesn't happen on a weekly basis, in the art world. But all of a sudden now now I'm craving it, craving that search, but at the same time being desensitized more and more. The more spectacular I see, the more I want, and the more and I feel that there's a big change. And all of a sudden, as an artist myself, everything's changing. It's quite a. I sort of feel I've corrupted myself within the fascination of this.
I mean, my own fascination with art, is such a huge part of being an artist for me. It's like, it's not just like time I spent making art is good. It's fine. I like it. Mm-hmm. But like the part that is most exciting, oftentimes it's like getting to see what other people are making and like appreciating the art being created at the highest levels. Like that is, but I don't think that you can get to that without being involved in it culturally. Like, making some things yourself and like being around people who are making things and like, being a part of the overall conversation of like making this stuff.
Oh yeah, that's why being part of the Midjourney community is so important to me as well. Being in those chats with people every day that are the creative minds. It's, incredible experience.
Yeah, there's no replacement for having a community to be able to share these sorts of things.
Yeah, 100%. There you go. Oh God,
I think I'm almost done with this painting too. I even added like a background to it a little bit. I did a little bit of like a simple background suggestion, and I'm like, surprised. This is not what I thought I was going to be doing today.
I always get to see what you start, and then I see the end because I listen to you like a podcast, and I work as well. I'm doing my art, so I'm sort of not actually watching it. I look and go, wow.
A guy contacted me and said he's been recording every one of these, and I'm like, oh, I need to get back to him, but like I need to figure out for myself, like, okay, if I did have access to all these recordings, what do I want them? Do I want to share them? Like, what would I do with them if I had access to all of them? And honestly, I don't know. Because AI is very controversial, so I'm not planning on like showing me do a bunch of demos and talk about AI in like an off the cuff way in a public setting, or not, I mean, this is public, but I mean, on my main channels.
Good for the YouTube algorithm, if you're going to slap them up there, as like extras, or Patreon extras. Patrons have access to those recordings, your patrons. People are like, oh, yeah, because you're paying, you get these extra.
I think kind of interested in trying to use them to build like a YouTube channel or something. Ask for permission but I don't know if it's something that I would necessarily want to broadcast. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I've been trying to think about it, but I've had so much going on.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're over on time. I think I'm going to call this one done. The other thing, so I can show you guys demo doodles. This priest guy is pretty cool. Very happy with the exploration here. Earlier today, I was doing a study of Frank Frazetta. So I can open up the PSD a little bit. Maybe I should have shown this at the beginning, but yeah, I'm up on to study number 56. So I spent a couple hours earlier today making this Frank Frazetta study from scratch here in Photoshop. I was doing it live on Twitch and broadcasting from my Huckleberry server. And yeah, it was my first time doing a master study out of the 56 of these studies that I've done. That was interesting. And yeah, we've got a Frank Frazetta challenge going this week over on Huckleberry. So this Friday, we're going to be meeting up with Frank Frazetta's granddaughter to go and look over the entries into the Frank Frazetta challenge. So if you're interested in doing art alongside me, come look up huckleberry.art. I've got some free resources on there as well as a link over to the Discord. Thanks so much, Ancient Chaos, for administrating this thing every week. And thanks, Wonderful World of Stuff, for hopping on stage, chit-chat with me. Everyone who came out to chat, it's been great talking with you guys. I will be back here again Tuesday, the same time. I'm back here every single week. So I will see some of you back here, and I'll see the rest of you around. Bye.